Sweet Talk, the show where our voices are heard and our narratives are told in a way that only we can tell it. It's our unapologetic truth. It's how we learn from one another. It's how we help one another heal. And most importantly, it's how we grow. It's the show where we have honest conversations about being black or brown in America. Nothing is off limits. Our guests are everyday people like you and me. I'm your host, Kali. So join me at the kitchen table.
Hey everybody, and welcome to Sweet Talk, the podcast where we take bitter conversations and we make them sweet. So today I have with me my lovely wife, Latasha. Hey. And so we are in our COVID bubble, pretty much where we've spent the last several months of COVID. And we want to talk about relationships. And we know a lot of couples been together and COVID has put a strain on relationships. Put a strain on relationships. Let's just leave it at that. And so, we've had some people ask us how have we been managing through COVID and just, what are our relationship goals and just about our relationship in general. And so today we thought we'd just take some time out and we would just answer some questions that we've received. And, probably Latasha's going to tell you that everything about me is just 100. It's gravy. I'm just the best thing since sliced bread and the rice. Anyway, don't believe a word that she says. Okay? Psych, I'm just kidding. Also, we have a new mantra here. It is no longer happy wife, happy life.
This is not true.
It is happy spouse, happy house. Remember that, y'all. Happy spouse, happy house.
Happy wife, happy life.
So, Latasha, let's just tell our listeners a little bit about us. How long we've been together, for the most part, and
you answer that. How long have we been together?
Whew, you ancient, girl. I need in car years, I should probably be getting a new ride.
Is your credit good?
Yes, I have good credit. Yes. But hey, those are questions that you should be asking. So we've been together about 17 years. We've been married for 12, right? 12 years. We've been together for 17 years. And one of the questions we were asked, if you had it to do all over again, what would you do or what would you do differently in regards to being married? And so my answer is not just because she's here, but if I had it to do all over again, I'd marry her again and again every day.
Happy wife, happy life.
I still don't always like you. Just know that. Okay. So what about you? Would you, if you had to do it all over again, what would you do? What would you do differently?
I don't know if you should ask me what would I do differently.
Well, that was the question. What would you do
differently?
differently?
Would I do it all over again? Mm-hmm. Absolutely, positively, without a doubt. I think marrying you was the best decision I've made.
Okay. Well, I think it was my best decision as well. So, how has it been being married to a woman? Because you've been married before. So in contrast to being married to a man, what is it like being married to a woman?
Okay, so remember I would always tell you that I don't know if marrying a woman will be okay because, a woman can't take care of me, can't handle business the same way that a man can, in the sense of making me feel safe, taking out the trash, protecting the house, all of those things. So I couldn't fathom that those things could happen. with a woman, but they have. Our house is very well taken care of, very well maintained. I feel safe. I felt safe from the beginning, which is how I was able to say yes and mean it.
Right. One of the questions that we got was, what is one of the biggest fears in your relationship? So what would you say is one of your biggest fears in our relationship?
Losing her to death. I really don't think that we would ever come to the divorce door. But losing you to death is my biggest fear.
That's my biggest fear as well, would just be, I can't imagine what it would be like waking up the next morning and knowing that you're no longer there in like finality. That it's just, you're not coming back. I can't call, I can't reach. It's not like you being on a business trip, or me being on a business trip. And I think that would just be the biggest thing for me.
I agree, because we do everything together. We laugh together, we cry together, we are best friends, really best friends. And so even when we're not together, I see something or something goes on, whether I'm excited, whether I'm afraid, whether I'm angry, you're the first person that I want to talk to, I want to share it with. We laugh a whole lot. We get each other's jokes. People used to always say we speak our own language, and we kind of do. And we laugh. We have a mutual humor and respect. So I can't imagine what that would be like to not have that anymore. I would have to learn how to laugh again. I would have to find how to.
Yeah, that would be something that's very difficult. I'm often, even when my friends ask me to go on different vacations with them, it's difficult. It's a difficult thing to do, because when we go on vacation, I can look at dumb stuff and I don't have to explain it to you, or it's not really dumb stuff, but it's dumb stuff to the average person. And we can just like laugh about it without saying anything. Or we can go somewhere or not go somewhere and it's enjoyable. Or I'll find myself being somewhere and saying, oh man, I wish Tasha was here so that I can experience this moment with her. Do you ever find yourself?
Absolutely. Or I wish Kylie was here so I could show her this. Or, just different things that we will stop and admire together. Where the rest of the group may continue to go, but, we have a similar eye.
And then I think the other biggest fear that I have is us not being able to communicate with one another. Just because like communication is so important that if I was no longer able to communicate, or you were able to communicate with me, it's something that I would miss. It's like losing a part of you. So for me, that communication. I also know what not having communication in a relationship can do to a relationship. So that would be my second thing. Do you have a second?
I think my second would be if I were ever in a position to not be able to take care of you the way that I take care of you. I always want to make sure that you're okay. I always want to make sure that you're taken care of. I know your medical history. I know that when you're sick, if you're lying down, that there has to be covers over your feet because your feet get cold. And, so if there were ever a time that I can take care of you, that's one of my biggest fears, because, we don't like for each other to experience much discomfort.
This is true.
So,
this is true.
Those things, I always joke when people come over and I'm making a plate, and some people say, oh, I would never make my significant other's plate. But I enjoy it.
I enjoy you making my plate. I enjoy that aspect of our life.
But partly because you don't know what you like. So I make it because you don't know what you like.
And because I didn't like anything before you. Before Tasha, I just want to say to everyone that before Tasha,
It's true.
I didn't like anything. Nothing. If you listen to her, I didn't like anything. I didn't know what I didn't eat. I didn't drink. I did nothing. I didn't watch TV because I had no likes or dislikes. It wasn't until she came into my life.
You didn't have a life until I came into your life.
That's right. So these last 17 years, I have started living because I didn't know what it was to live without this one right here. Owe it all to you girl. So, but you know, one of the things that you said was divorce was not in our vocabulary, and that was one of the questions. One of the questions was, do you ever talk to your spouse about divorce? You know, what are your thoughts? What are y'all thoughts on divorce? So I'll let you.
Okay, so we've always said that we would never get a divorce. That the only thing that would separate us would be death. But relationships have their ups and downs. And so there have been points where, you know, we've talked about maybe needing to separate. But I think it was always with the intentions that we would find our way back to each other. Or at least for me it was, that we would end up finding our way back to each other. But after we got over the roughest parts of our marriage, I would say now that no, divorce is not in my vocabulary, and I don't think it's in yours. However, like if you were to cheat, then it would magically appear in my vocabulary.
What? Like, that word is not in our vocabulary. There are just certain words that we have taken out of the notebook of words that we have. I'm not even going to say dictionary. I'm just going to say the notebook of words.
It's true, but for couples
but
that are out there, you know, people are human.
Yes, we are. We are all human.
And so it's possible.
And I have made mistakes in my life because I am an imperfect person, and I have made mistakes in our relationship because I'm an imperfect person. I'm working towards perfection. And I think it's our imperfection together that make us perfect for one another. So, yeah.
Agreed.
So, Tasha, you know, right now, you know, we mentioned that we have been in COVID for the last 6 months, right? So what are you most excited about in this season of our relationship? Because this is a new season for us, and even hopefully exiting this bubble soon. You know, what are you most excited about in our relationship to come?
I am excited about, yes, getting out of this bubble. I'm also excited about the next chapter of our life because our youngest daughter, our youngest child is an adult now. And so with that being said, you know, we have some new exploring to do once we're out of the bubble, you know, and we are getting to know each other differently as parents of 2 adult children.
Mm-hmm.
And that takes on a new meaning. You know, empty nesting, we briefly had a period of empty nesting before COVID jacked that up. And we had to get to...
That was beautiful too, wasn't it?
It was, but you know, it was like, even though we were prepared for it, you know, it was different too. All of a sudden, the house was so eerily quiet all the time, you know? And so...
that thing that you want, like you want quiet,
it.
and then it's like,
oh my God, it's too
ah,
quiet.
yeah, like, where's the noise? The noise is only coming from the dogs, but then even the dogs begin to get quiet. It's like, yeah, we're on y'all schedule. We're up when y'all up. We gonna go to bed when y'all go to bed. Kingston, or my dog, my Rottweiler, we get to a certain time, he'll look at me and he'd be like, peace, I'm out. I'm going to my room and going to bed. And it's just quiet.
So if I could say that most excited about what's next is when we have the opportunity to continue to explore what empty nesting looks like, feels like in its totality. Because we're getting to learn each other differently.
Yeah. Let's see, what am I most excited about? I'm just excited to see, I think when this started, one of the things that we said was, what is it going to look like on the other side? And we've experienced so much in the midst of this situation, these circumstances, from just not just COVID that we have to deal with, but we also had to deal with the social injustice in a whole different way. We had to deal with the fallout of COVID from family members being sick and losing loved ones, and dealing with that in a new way. That I'm just excited to get to the other side. I'm looking forward to getting to the other side and expanding upon what we have and building, building on what we already have. And that's, our relationship. Typically, we do a lot of traveling. We have stayed the course. We haven't traveled. We have like a whole bunch of travel vouchers at this point that will probably expire because I'm not getting on anybody's plane. I don't feel comfortable being on a plane. Or not taking cruises. So, we've lost there. And just in a lot of different aspects in regards to travel. So I think I'm excited to be able to travel with my wife again and enjoy other places the way that we used to enjoy places. We were planning our 50th and for next year, and that got put on hold because we really don't know what the traveling situation will be. So, well, actually, next year we're not even celebrating 50. We're going to be celebrating 49 because we didn't get to really have our 49 this year.
We scrapped 2020.
Yeah, so we're going to do 50 in 2 years, and then we'll hop over 51 and go to 52 maybe.
There you go.
Yeah, we may hop over 51 and do 52. So, we're looking at
doing
possibly
our own personal leap year.
Yeah, that's right. We're gonna do our own personal leap year. So, what have you learned about me that you didn't know since we've been married?
You mean during COVID?
In general. But you can start there. What have you learned about me that you didn't know since COVID?
Relationship-wise, you are more creative with keeping the spark going than I gave you credit for.
Huh. Okay. So you didn't give me any credit? Is that what you're saying?
No.
How much credit did you give?
You were always very romantic, but it takes a lot to keep up romance or romantic gestures during a pandemic when you're seeing each other 24/7. So you pulled some things out the box that I would not have expected. It's not typical. It wasn't like, there were a bunch of occasions. We were just in each other's faces all the time. But you pulled out some romantic gestures, and you were more creative than I thought you would have been during the onset of this pandemic. I mean, when this happened, we didn't know what things would look like, and we certainly didn't expect to still be here now. But I mean, I think we've both been creative. We both.
That's what I was going to say. The one thing that I've learned about you since the pandemic is that you are more willing to try things with me outside of your comfort zone. For instance, I've been trying to get you to go fishing forever. And we went fishing, and you actually enjoyed it. What else we went kayaking. We've owned kayaks, your own personal kayaks, which you just never would use it. But you would make us go rent a double kayak so that you could be in a kayak with me, even though we own two kayaks.
Here's the deal. I'm getting ready to call you out.
Call me out.
We had two kayaks, one for you, one for me. I sold my kayak because I don't kayak alone. We will go somewhere and rent doubles. And guess what somebody did? We ain't got another kayak after I sold my first one. So, yeah, COVID did stretch me a bit. So I went on ahead and decided to use my own kayak because I feel like if I sell this one, you just replace it with another.
That's right. I would. So you've gone fishing, you've gone kayaking, you've even gone to play golf with me.
Yeah.
And so COVID, I think, allowed me to see that you can come out of your box when it comes to extracurricular outdoor activities. And so for me, that was a silver lining. Did you enjoy those things?
I did. Actually, I enjoyed them more than I thought. So my favorite thing out of the three was golf.
Oh, okay. So how important do you think that it is for couples to try things outside of their comfort zone?
It's very important. Not only should you try things outside of your comfort zone, you should try things that you think you don't like.
What did you try that you liked that you thought you would not like? And don't say all of them. I know you.
So I thought I didn't like golf. Golf, man, no interest. And I tried that, and I really did enjoy it. I love kayaking, but I just like for you to be in charge in case someone needs to save me.
You're funny.
And fishing. I tried fishing. It's cool. I can do it with you, but it's not something that I'll ever say, "Hey, Kylie, let's go fishing."
Somebody asked, do you think that being friends is an important component of marriage?
It's the most important.
I would agree.
Of marriage, because when you are friends first, there is a different level of respect and a different level of love that you have for your friend that can carry you when the person you're married to is not acting like the person that you married.
Break that down.
So generally, when you have friends, particularly friends that you're close to, you will bend, you will give them chance after chance after chance. You'll you'll do everything that you can do to keep the relationship together. You'll do more for a friendship than you will to keep a relationship together, in my opinion, just because you don't have to be as vulnerable in a friendship as you have to do in a relationship.
Yes.
So when your relationship is not doing the best, or when it's not where you think it should be, it's that friendship that keeps you at a level where you are determined to keep trying because you don't want to lose your friend.
Right. And a good example of that, like we've been together 17 years. We've been married for 12. And there's times where she gets the hell on my nerves. And I know it's the same thing here. We just need our separate corners. But in relationships, sometimes it's not easy. Like a lot of times people look at our relationship and they'll say, relationship goals and things. And that's sometimes if we were people that look for approval from other people, that would be a lot of pressure on us. But because we don't really bend to other people's expectations, we just pretty much live our lives the way we see best fit to live our lives. And we're always trying to live our best life. It would be difficult because there are times where we love each other, but we don't like each other. But yeah, that's truth. And for people that are in relationships that say that's not the case, that they always like their mate, wrong. They're lying. And that's what you said. The devil is a liar, right there. Okay. But as a friend, when your mate is a friend, it's easier to go and talk to them and look at them differently, look at them as a friend and say, you know what, at the end of the day, you're always my friend. And you like you said, you've been for friends because that friendship is very important. And for us, I always tell people one of the keys to our relationship and when we got together is that we became the best of friends. She was my friend first before she was anything else. We took like a year or two just building our friendship. And that was important because whatever happened, we wanted to make sure at the end of the day that we were still able to be friends because we valued that friendship. So yes.
And I think that, like in our toughest times, when we don't communicate and we're arguing and we don't want to be bothered.
And I miss when we arguing, yes, because let me say that we do argue.
We sure do.
We argue.
Absolutely.
We argue. But we argue lovingly. There's a difference.
Yes.
There's a difference. Like I'm never gonna call my wife out her name. I'm never going to slide her name or anything across the grass. It's just right. And that also being my friend enables me to do that because at the end of the day, it's my
person allows you to do that.
Yes.
But being a friend, when we are not getting along, it's my friend that I miss before I miss my wife. It's my friend. It's the person that I want to confide in. It's the person that I want to laugh with. It's the person that I want to tell my deepest, darkest secret to. And you tell more of your deepest, darkest secrets to your best friend than you do your spouse.
This is true.
And so when we are having our moments, what can bring me back is that I miss my friend. And so that's why I say it's very important to be friends first. To spend a lot of time developing the friendship.
And I think that's one of the things that have allowed us, when we first started this episode, we talked about, couples going through and having issues because of COVID. They were spending more time together than they've ever spent with one another. And that tests a relationship when you are just, no matter what the size of your living quarters are, they have now just shrunk because it becomes everything. It's school, it's work, it's home, and it becomes challenging when you're just with that person constantly. So for me, I can say that right now, being in this bubble with my wife is easier because my wife is my friend. And we have our separate corners that we go to from time to time, but at the end of the day, she's still a person that I want to be with. I want to do things. I want to watch movies. If I'm watching a movie, I'm going to watch this movie with my friend. I want to have these different conversations. And like she says, if we get into an argument, then it's like, okay, all right, I might not miss my wife, but I miss my friend. So then we tend to come back to the middle and make things better because especially now, it's like, I want that companionship, that interaction, that socialization with my friend. So yes, to answer your question, friendship is a very important component to a successful marriage. And that leads right into the next question. And the next question was, what do you think are some of the components of a successful marriage? Communication. Friendship. Trust. Respect.
Definitely
respect
and loyalty.
Loyalty. Yes, you have to be. You have to be respectful. I think that is, and respect. Just respect how another person feels. You know, taking a person's feelings over yours, respecting that sometimes is a hard thing to do because you have to put someone else's feelings above yours. But if you respect that person, I think then it makes it easier. What are some of the other? Definitely compromise. Like I said, happy spouse, happy house. Compromise. See? Say it with me, Tasha.
Negative.
We're still working on that compromise, folks. We're still working on that compromise. Is there anything else?
So if you're a person that is coming into a relationship with children and your significant other doesn't have children, it has to be their willingness to be a parent. It's the willingness to be able to share responsibilities. And that doesn't matter if there's another parent that's involved or not, because if you two live together and the children live there, then your significant other, your spouse, will have to do a certain amount of parenting, and they have to be willing to parent and love your children.
Yes, and I'll speak on that from the aspect of the person coming into the marriage without any children. And, you know, in our household, we don't use the word step parent or even bonus parent. At the end of the day, our youngest child, I actually raised since she was an infant. So she doesn't, all her life, I've been in her life. And so I remember having a conversation with her probably about 4 or 5 years ago. And she came home and she was like, it just sounds so crazy because I was with one of my friends and they kept saying, well, your stepmom or your step parent, and referring to their bonus parents or step parent as a step. And it was confusing to her friends because she called us mom, mommy, and mommy, but it was never like my stepmom. And she was like, because that's not a term that we use. But I've never done anything but make her feel like she's my own, because to me she is my own, and I treat her as if I carried her, which I will go on the record and say I never had any desire to carry children. However, if I did, that's how they would be treated. The example of my youngest child.
And then, you know, our oldest, he was older, so the relationship was a little bit different. It had to be developed differently.
Yes.
And both of our children had relationship with their father.
Yes.
So it wasn't a replacing. It was just that I'm here to do what I have to do.
It was an addition.
It was an addition. Yes.
Yes.
And so, but the person has to be willing to do that, and not only do it because they want to, and do it because they have a desire to fall in love with these children as their own.
Yes, that's the biggest, part. I would just say that twofold. If you're going into a relationship with someone that already has kids and you have no desire to be a positive part or add to that child's life, you don't need to get into that relationship. You don't need to be in that relationship because you're not just marrying that person. You're marrying, and don't look at it as baggage, because they're not baggage. It's a complete package. And so you are marrying that person and that child, because that child is becoming an extension of you. And it's not always easy,
Absolutely, because kids will be kids. They will challenge, they will argue, they will, do what they do. But people often have to ask who's the biological. And that's a good thing, because it means that you love these kids as if they are your biological.
And they are a pain in my ass, just as if I was their biological. don't get it twisted. But kids are, and you guys can act like your kids aren't a pain in your ass, but they are. Let's just be real. You know, this is the podcast where we take bitter conversations and make them sweet. We still love them. We still want the best for them, but they're a pain in our ass just like we were a pain in our parents' ass. Let's just not get it twisted. But I would definitely, I do it over again in a heartbeat. I think for me, having children helped me grow. It helped me mature. It allowed me to see the world differently. It helped me to be less selfish because I couldn't just think about myself. I had to put my kids first, and I had to think about what was best for them versus what was best for me. And if I wanted something versus them wanting or needing something, then I I learned that it was a matter of putting them first, and their needs came first. Now they're all adults. I can kind of say kick rocks in some instance, but you kind of still don't because they still your kids. And well, truth of the matter is, I'm about to be 50, and my parents are the same way, so it's their fault. But the flip side, that was speaking from the perspective of a person going into a relationship, but the person that doesn't have kids, but the person that does have kids, you know, I would want to say to you that if you are with someone or considering marrying someone or being someone who does not take your kids into consideration and just takes you into consideration, then you are doing a disjustice to your kids. And no matter what they tell you, they don't love you the way that they say that they love you. That's just the bitter truth right there. They don't love you the way that they say that they love you, because if they love you, they would know that your kids are an extension of you. And to love you means to love and to embrace and to protect them. And so if that's not being done, then you probably need to tell them to kick rocks. I mean, that's just what I'm saying. You know, you do what you want to do. But so touche. So, did we miss anything? Or we kind of, I think that was pretty much all the questions that we had. We talked about the fears. Oh, okay. There's one question here that says, if you could change anything about your spouse, what would it be?
If I could change something about you,
Yeah, if you can change something about me, what would it be?
then I am trying to get my point across, particularly in an argument that you won't interrupt and you will allow me to get my point across.
Probably that point doesn't need to be gotten across when we're arguing. That's probably why I interrupt. But you know, that's just my logic. You know, I'm going to use the words of Bruno Mars, and I'm going to say, to me, that there's not a thing about you that I would change, because you're beautiful just the way you are. That's
happy
what
life, happy life. That's not true. I can tell you what she changed about me.
What would I change about you? Tell me. What would I change?
You want me to forgive more quickly.
Okay, you're right. She knows me. I am a person that I don't have time to hold on to stuff for the most part, unless I'm trying to be vindictive. So it's kind of like I don't have time to hold on to that baggage of being angry and being. It's like, all right, it's happened. You know, I may show out, and then once I get it out, it's done deal. It's over, and let's move forward. This one right here, no. You know, she needs a couple hours. She needs some time to meditate on it. I don't know, sleep on it. I don't really know what the hell she be doing, but she just has to have this time to stew. Now me, I'm just like, girl, you still thinking about that? Like, I thought we were done with that. We still, you still mad about that? Like, that's like yesterday. And I like to move on. So then sometimes I have to move on without her, which means that I have to move on without my friend, because my friend and my spouse, my wife, is mad about something that happened. And then you know, she want to come back, and she never apologizes. Never apologizes. She never says, I'll take that back. 1 out of 10 times, she'll say, babe, I'm sorry, you were right. What she'll do, 8 hours later, come in, so, what do you want for dinner? Or have you watched this particular show?
That is
What
an
did you?
apology of sorts.
How the hell is that an apology?
Because I've moved on.
What? It was 8 hours ago. You should have moved on. You should have moved on 7.5 hours ago. Like, who knows you're apologizing?
My name is Kali and my name is Tasha, because we are two different.
So, on that note, I will say this, that you have to learn how your mate argues. You have to learn how your mate apologizes, because if I was waiting for her to say I'm sorry, those are things that I would never get. So for me, 1 out of 10 times. And we have this thing, for me, just because the person that I am, I'm like, I'm going to give you 9 out of 10. 9 out of 10 arguments, I'm going to give them to her. Whether she's right or wrong, I give them to her. But that one, I don't care if I'm dead wrong, it's mine. I'm fighting for it. It's mine. And that's usually when we get into the arguments. And I can't understand. If I gave you 9, why you can't just give up that 10th one without an argument? Tell me that, folks. Anybody that's listening, if you got the answer to that, I want to know. Why I can't have that 10th one? Why I can't have that 10th one? Come on, they listening. Tell them. Why? See? Well, anything else? I'm not going to get an answer to that, folks, and I think you're not going to get an answer either. I'm just going to keep having to fight for that 10th one and waiting for that 8th hour when she says, so, you want some dessert? You want to watch such and such? And take that as my apology. So, and I would advise some of you just do the same thing, because if you're waiting on that apology, it's not going to come. What else you got to say? Anything? Pertaining to just anything, relationship, anything you want to share.
So you touched on something earlier. You said people look at us and they always say relationship goals, and how we really, really took that to heart. That would be a lot of pressure.
Too much sun?
Yeah.
Let's figure out.
I think, you know, the way that we work in our relationship works very well for us. And while you can look at other relationships as an example, people have to understand that relationships are different, because people are different. Their personalities are different. Their expectations are different. And where they are in their lives are different. And so we keep that in mind. But from a personal standpoint, when people are always saying relationship goals, sometimes for me, it does feel like it's pressure. You know, even though we do real well, even though we have a really good relationship, and we've been dating for the past 17 years. We have.
You're right. I believe in, when people talk about date your mate, we date. We have TV date night.
We do.
We
go
out.
This is a day right now in the pool.
We just set time aside, and we typically set our phones and set people aside, and we just make time for one another.
But the flip side to that is, because people see how a relationship is, they don't understand that there is also, all relationships have struggle, right?
And work.
Right. And so if I'm at a point that I feel like I need to talk to someone to get some things off my chest, then I'm automatically dismissed. It's like, oh, you have a good relationship. What are you complaining about? And it's not so much a complaint, but all relationships do. They take work. And sometimes you just don't get along. Or sometimes I want you to see something a particular way, and you want me to see something a particular way. And sometimes I need to talk to people to find out if I'm being unreasonable, or if I'm not.
And I think you're usually being unreasonable. No, I'm just kidding.
But so it's like, well, even though we have a really good relationship, we do still have struggles and pressures, and we argue, and you're you, and I'm me, and sometimes me being me and you being you be twice, and that's okay.
Yeah, it is.
And every day is not peaches and cream, but people don't understand that. So it's difficult when I find myself in a place that I need someone to hear me out or to listen. Oftentimes I don't get that. I'm dismissed. People say, "Oh, your relationship is." People want your relationship. What do you think about? They dismiss you.
Well, in talking about that, we're going to be transparent. So we just recently did an episode on finances as it relates to, relationships. And, and then in talking to that, one of the things that I said is that, managing or marrying your bank accounts with someone can be difficult to do, but not impossible. But doing it, you just have to do it in love and different ways of doing it. And in being transparent, right? One of the ways that we used to butt heads is because I'm a little anal in certain things. Yeah, just a little. I'm just a little anal in certain things. And, I was just a particular way when it came to finances and things. And I would say, like, to my wife, well, I don't have it. But then I would have, like, a bank account that had X, Y, and Z in it. And she would be like, well, I thought you said you didn't have it. And I was just like, well, this is money that's just set aside. So to me, it doesn't exist. And so I had to learn how to communicate differently with her and began to explain to her my spending and budget habits. And she had to explain and help me to understand her spending and budget habits so that we could marry them together. Because that was we would try to have those conversations at first, and it would be very difficult, wouldn't it? You're not gonna say yes. She said,
I'm shaking my head.
Yeah, it would be very.
And even with our finances married, and they've been married for a very long time, sometimes it's still difficult.
Yeah, and so it's never a one-stop shop. But we've learned to look at it from the standpoint, and we'll even say to our kids, I don't have any money that she doesn't have. So it doesn't matter how many bank accounts I have or how many bank accounts she have or how many bank accounts we have together. We don't have anything that doesn't belong to one another. So whatever's in that account of hers is mine and vice versa, right? And I think that's a very important aspect. I mean, as we talk about relationships, a lot of times we don't talk about finances. And finances is a very difficult conversation to have with people because it doesn't always feel good. It's a lot of tension. So we had to begin figuring out different ways to have conversations. And I shared this on the last episode. And one of the ways that we have conversations is we set it, like we said, we have date night, which is what made me think of this. But we'll also have a day where we set up, where we will set a time and a date where we just talk about finance. And how does that make you feel? How does that work for you?
It's better because what used to happen is you would always catch me off guard and you would want to talk finances and we were trying to relax and we were trying to enjoy each other. We were trying to, set some mood. And I would be like, well, not now. And so we had to learn to set days and times so that we could both come to the table prepared, not just with what we had to share, but a prepared mindset. Right? And that makes all the difference in the world.
And then the other thing that I share that we do is we express our vision for the future in relation to finance. Like, what is it that we want? You know, we look at our goals. Like, do we want to add property? Do we want to add vehicles? Do we want to do trips? What do those things look like? And then that's how we began to envision, okay, how do we develop a plan to do the things that we want to do in the future? And did that make it a lot easier for you when it came to budgeting?
It did, because I was doing a good
I didn't say that to put you on the spot, but yeah, I mean, so it became a lot easier when we began talking about the types of houses. Like, for instance, when we made a decision to move from New Jersey and move to Florida, you know, a lot of people were like, oh, they just picked up and did it. Now we had a conversation probably about a year in advance, and we said, this is what we want to do. How does it have to happen?
We lined it out to the letter.
And we did, and we just did it. We said, okay, we got this amount, we got a budget, and every month, and we just gotta live by that. And then 12 months later, we jumped ship, and everybody was like,
and that included me not working for 6 months.
Yes, we budgeted
for that, just because if you get to another state, you move to another state, you never know what predicament you'll be in professionally. So we budgeted that should I have to be home, we would be able to sustain our same lifestyle for 6 months.
So I think that's very important. So, you know, when we talk about communication, you have to be comfortable to communicate with your spouse about everything, not just about your exes, not just about what you're mad about, but you have to be able to communicate with them about finances, you know, and stop hiding those shoes or bags in your trunk when y'all have a financial goal, you know, because you cheating on them on your financial vision when you're doing that. But my wife doesn't do that these days. Well, yeah, I'm glad that
do you know why I don't go anymore?
Why don't you do
because
that?
Because when we did sit down and make a plan to move, and we laid it out and we followed it to the letter, it was demonstrated to me that it does work. And so I had to experience it to know that it worked. And so it's a lot, you know, that changed my mindset. You know, and when someone tells you, I mean, and this was not our complete plan, but this is part of our plan, we need to save $500 a paycheck. And that's a hard pill to swallow. It's a hard pill to swallow.
But when you're doing it because you're trying to obtain something, it makes it easier.
The other part about it is when you're, you know, with finances, there's always the unexpected. And we always try to plan for the unexpected. Our children may need assistance. We try to plan for that. We try to plan for things that may come up around the house. We try to plan for our parents. We try to plan in advance as much as possible. Now, we can't always know what, you know, the unexpected will look like, but we do try to plan some type of semblance that we can assist.
Right.
In some way.
Yes. And I mean, and that's not for everybody. I mean, you don't have to do that. This is just our relationship. Just, you know, we talking about us. We talking about what makes our relationship, you know, work. We're talking about, you know, what has kept us together, kept us married for 12 years, what has kept us together for 17 years, and hopefully in being transparent, we're answering some of the questions that people have asked us. I know there's a lot more questions out there, and we're trying to, you know, give the best advice that we can give based on our circumstance, based on our situation, and you know what we've learned and what we've experienced. And like I said, I'm not a perfect person, so I've made mistakes in our relationship. This is my wife has made mistakes in our relationship, but we own them. We talk about them, And we try to evolve from them. We try to put ourselves in a space where they'll never happen again, you know. And so I said it at the beginning of this episode, is that she's one of the best things that's happened to me. I'd marry her every day over and over again, just not as expensive. It just wouldn't be as expensive as it was the first time.
By the way, she's not just saying it, she tells me this quite often.
Yeah, I would. She is truly, my best friend. She's the person that will tell me the truth, cutthroat truth, even when it hurts my feelings. And I respect that and I appreciate that, because, we need that. When we talk about having people in our corner that have our back, those same people that have our back, we should be able to allow them to sing our praises, but they should also be able to tell us when we on the floor doing wrong and we need to get our shit together. And that's what you want in a mate. Not somebody that's always cussing you out, don't get me wrong, or belittling you or putting you down. But for me, I wanted someone that wasn't behind me, that wasn't in front of me, but somebody that wanted to walk side by side with me, hand in hand with me. And so that meant if I went a couple steps further, then she needed to catch up. She was willing to catch up, or she went a couple steps further, and I was dragging and she was pulling me saying, hey, yo, you better catch up because, we not on the same pace. And it helped me grow. It helped her grow as a person. And it just overall, it helped our relationship. And it allowed us to have the type of relationship that we had. And it works. It works for us. So I think that's really all I have to give. Anything else you want to say to our listeners out there?
Thanks for having me.
Well, it's always a pleasure to have you. Always. And I tell you all the time, come back anytime. And so, yeah, folks, that's it. This is, we signing out. We thank you for joining us on this episode here about, love, happiness, and relationships. And, just allowing us to talk to you and share some things with you. So, all right, folks, we out.
Thank you for joining us this week on Sweet Talk. If you've enjoyed our show, make sure you subscribe to our channel so you'll never miss an episode. You can find us on Spotify, iTunes, or Google Play. Reach out with your questions to sweettalklive@gmail.com or hit us up on Facebook or Twitter at Sweet Talk Lane. You can also send us a voice message. You can find the link on our Facebook or Twitter page. Until then, sip responsibly and keep the conversations flowing.